Hi and welcome to Different Leaf, a show for new and experienced cannabis consumers. I'm Brit Smith. Welcome to the fall 2023 podcast season of Different Leaf, which is kicking off alongside our full edibles issue of Different Leaf, the magazine. If you don't have your copy yet, you can order one mailed to you at differentleaf.com or go to the subscribe and shop tab to find your nearest store selling it in person. That's differentleaf.com. Once you have your gorgeous new edibles issue in hand, flip to page 40 where our food writer, Charla June, has penned an in-depth article about the food science behind cannabis edibles. This episode, we're going to expand on that conversation by looking at some of the innovations that edible makers are using to give us targeted effects, faster and more sustained highs, and we'll dive into how food scientists are actually making it happen behind the scenes. First, we're going to chat with Kristi Palmer, the co-founder of Kiva Confections, one of the nation's leading edible makers. And we'll talk about what new experiences consumers have been looking for, how companies like hers are continually innovating their edible offerings, and what Kristi sees as the future for the changing landscape of the infused edible market. We'll also be hearing from Brianna Neff, chief food scientist and founder of Brelixi, a functional infused beverage powder. We'll be chatting about how food scientists like her are working out how to get our edibles to give us those different kinds of highs and those faster onsets, all while maintaining their taste and texture. We'll be right back to chat about edible food science with Kristi Palmer of Kiva and Brianna Neff of Brelixi.
Hi, my name is Kristi Palmer, and I'm a co-founder at Kiva Confections.
In spring of 2023, I first met with Kristi of Kiva in New York City to chat about how edible companies are changing. And she mentioned how much their food scientists play a role in making sure that Kiva's chocolates and candies don't lose their taste or texture when they want to experiment with upping the potency or changing the flavor. As Kristi explained to me, before Kiva started offering experience-specific candies and before fast-acting edibles were even a thing, like many edible makers, Kiva started in California with a solid, tasty chocolate bar.
Yeah, Kiva, my gosh, it's been 13 years now. So 2010 was when we got our start in the home kitchen in San Leandro, the house that I grew up in.
Wow.
And it was my husband and I that started the business. And we started with a chocolate bar, our chocolate bar that remains largely unchanged for what it looks like today. It's a beautifully packaged chocolate bar. Now it's scored per regulation, so it has certainly grown and matured over the years. But in terms of packaging, even really flavor, taste, quality of the chocolate has really maintained itself throughout the years. But, we started with a chocolate bar because practically speaking, it was a really great medium to work with when it comes to cannabis. So chocolate and cannabis from a formulation perspective go together very nicely. The fat quantity or quality in chocolate really marries well with the qualities of THC, and being that THC is fat soluble for one. And then really when it comes down to edibles and creating something that consumers are going to fall in love with, creating trust within the consumer and a product that's very approachable and welcoming, who doesn't like chocolate? Right? It's
right.
Like, chocolate is just such a great, nothing scary comes out of chocolate. It's just very friendly, and it's a format that people are used to consuming. And so to welcome in that newbie consumer or that person who was looking for something a little different from smoking, a bit more consistent, that's where we kind of decided that a chocolate bar would be the perfect entry point for us.
Since Kiva's first edible in 2010, the world of infused edibles has come a really long way. In fact, just in the past 5 years, we've seen the rise of several food technologies that are changing the way we enjoy edible weed. We've now got fast-acting edibles made possible by nano-emulsification. It's a technology that helps us to feel the edibles within minutes instead of hours. We'll get into that technology a little bit later. We've also now got edibles with live resin and rosin in them, which essentially means they contain extracts taken from flash frozen fresh cannabis flower. And that offers a much more distinct intentional cannabis flavor and a more intense, clear physical high. And now we've got edibles with targeted effects. Like you can get pills for chilling, for focusing, energy, sleep, even sexual arousal. All of which are basically full of the specific cannabinoids or mixtures of cannabinoids that make us feel that type of way. Before we get into how food scientists develop and use these new technologies, let's talk about how infused food actually works inside our bodies. Why is it that edibles give you more of a physical high than smoking? Why do edibles last so much longer? And why does it take forever to feel them? I asked Brianna Neff, Chief Food Scientist at Relixi, to break it down for us.
Hello, my name is Brianna Neff. I'm the founder and Chief Food Scientist of Relixi. There's extracts, there's distillates, there's isolates, there's water-soluble powders. So we've really come a long way. We're really advanced in the science of cannabis, as we're speaking in 2023, which is really exciting for me as a food scientist and functional product developer to see, because now I have a bunch of things to play with in my library.
Yeah, there's loads and loads of different options out there for edibles at the moment. Like yours, there's a powder that you can add to drinks. I've got like chocolate bars, gummies, cookies, candies. Let's talk about how it happens. Why is it that edibles give us much more of a sustained high than smoking? What is the difference when I'm eating something? I taste it, I eat it, it goes through my digestive tract. Why do I feel so different than smoking, and why does it take so much longer to hit me?
That answer is simply on the different metabolization pathways that you are enduring when you consume cannabis. So when you consume edibles, you're eating it. So that's basically mostly metabolizing pathway is through your stomach, your liver, and your entire digestive system. So if you think about that, when you metabolize things, first of all, it's all subjective. It's dependent on your metabolizing speed, and then also what's in your stomach. If you have an empty stomach, as you know, you usually get hit quicker with, from edibles than when you eat something on top of a full meal, let's say. So it all depends on how quickly your body metabolizes. That directly affects the onset time, number one. Number two, if you think about smoking or consuming, and inhaling, vaporizing, or what have you, that's through the mouth. So you're metabolizing cannabinoids orally through the mouth, the oral cavity. So it's much different. That's how you're metabolizing the cannabinoids in that way versus your stomach. So that's a way quicker route than waiting for your body to digest it in your stomach, for example. It converts the delta 9 THC into delta 11 THC.
Okay, and so that stuff makes you feel more in your body.
Yep, it makes it more into your body and longer lasting as well. Some struggle with being able to metabolize something like that in their liver based on just how, the health conditions of their liver, if they have any other prior health conditions or other medications to keep note of, because the liver has a big job of, metabolizing most things, especially medications. And so those that have high medications in their rituals, their daily rituals, they often have to be wary of, or at least really, be considerate of the type of edible that they're consuming. You do have to rely on your liver to convert that if it is a high amount of cannabis to ingest.
That left me with just one question. Why are so many of our edible options what we'd call junk food, like chocolate, candy, or brownies?
It's easier to extract cannabinoids into a fat solution versus a water-based solution because cannabinoids love fat. They're lipophilic. They mesh well in fat solutions, and they're lipophobic, so they actually don't mesh well in water-soluble solutions. So simply, you just have to do a little bit more processing and a little bit more extractions are involved when it's converting into a water-soluble form. You basically just have to suspend that fat-loving cannabinoid molecule into something that is suspended in water.
Wow. Okay. Now we're getting into
Deep.
science.
We can go really deep.
Ooh, okay. So I understand that there's many different ways that you can extract it, and then there's many different ways that you can add it to the food.
Once I understood how edibles work in our bodies, I wanted to know how companies take their line of products and make changes to them in the kitchen, like adding new flavors or higher amounts of THC without ruining the chocolate itself. The first time I met Kristi from Kiva, she told me about one of the biggest hurdles for edible companies trying to innovate is how to not lose the taste of their already beloved chocolate bar, while still adjusting the recipe to up the potency or modify the consumer's experience.
Kiva is well known for its chocolates, gummies. Over here in Massachusetts, we've just started getting live resin, live rosin. There's also these incredible mints that I really love that you guys do. So obviously the brand has grown from this chocolate bar, which it initially was. And as you've grown as a company, you've had to adapt to what the consumers want. And obviously what happens with edible companies is they make a product, they get feedback on the product, and you'll make those changes. So I want to pick up on the conversation that we initially had last time we saw each other when we were talking about how you decide to make those changes in your chocolates, in your gummies, in your line. And then sort of how food science allows you to make those changes to your edibles without losing like the taste and the texture and all of those key things that you want from an edible as well. I don't just want the experience. If it tastes terrible and it tastes really weedy, I don't want that. But what we're seeing consumers want more of is higher levels of THC or like targeted effects. So let's talk about how you innovate your edibles. Let's talk first about the taste and the flavor. How do you change the edible for, I'm assuming the consumer wants higher levels of THC, without losing the taste and the flavor of the chocolate?
Yes. Oh my gosh, Brit, that is such an important question, such an important point. Maintaining flavor, maintaining taste for a company like Kiva is absolutely paramount. I cannot underscore how important that is because I think it's oftentimes that other edible companies or people, as they're developing their products, they forget that the consumer is going to eat the product.
Yeah.
And it's hard to go back to a restaurant, for example, where you didn't like the food. Like there's so many choices and so many options out there that taste is absolutely key. So when it comes to flavor, when it comes to taste and maintaining that integrity of that high quality product, we don't make any concessions. So if we have an idea of a product that we want to create and it's not working out or the flavor just isn't quite right, we will abandon that product and find one that works even better. And that's all part of our strategy about creating a wide portfolio of products that appeal to the widest consumer base, the widest audience base. And while some consumers may appreciate or even maybe forgive that cannabis-y flavor that you get when you start really loading up a product with a bunch of THC, that's not necessarily, we don't want to exclude them with a great tasting product, but we just want to make sure that we're not pushing anybody out by having products that just don't taste good. And so I think that's absolutely the most important thing that we do is maintaining that taste.
Yeah. So have you seen like your consumers wanting more higher levels of THC or any cannabinoid, I guess, where you have to then be like, okay, now we've got to tweak something in the ingredients in the recipe because if you want more cannabinoids, that's going to change the flavor and we don't want to lose our flavor.
Yes, indeed. So the needs of consumers are changing as our company scales and as we grow across the country, entering new markets, finding new communities of folks that are looking for cannabis products and edibles in particular. Yes, the needs of the consumer are changing. And so there are often times when that consumer is looking for a stronger product. And so, it comes down to formulation, to selecting the proper types of extractions, the proper grade of extraction, right? You want something with a high THC content, for example, for those products that are going to be high concentrations of THC coming out the other end. So yes, the attention to detail that we have to use to get that taste and that flavor just right is a huge part of our portfolio strategy.
But from my vast, deep knowledge about chocolate, it seemed to me that maintaining the texture of infused chocolates would probably get harder with the more cannabis that you added. Eventually, the bar would be like more weed than chocolate, right?
In my mind, I'm imagining it's like making an omelet where you want to add some extra ingredients, right? But you don't just want it to be like egg-covered broccoli. You want it to be, like you don't just want it to be chocolate with all CBD